the separation between Vi and Powder. What in this emotional scene feels out of place and how we can explain it? The last words of Vander to Vi before his death were, "Keep Powder safe." Vi is hearing Powder coming, and we see Powder, she is excited to tell Vi about her success, how the bomb that she's making finally worked. And Powder is waiting to hear Vi's blessing, to reassure her own abilities. The moment is hard for us, because just a second ago we saw what happened. And to see Powder happy like that, knowing what just happened, is taking us, the viewer, out of balance. Take Vi out of balance as well. And so she's confused, and she asks, "You did this?" And her response to Vi's question, "Why did you do it?" "I only wanted to help." And this answer still touching the very fragile self-image that Powder has, the lack of sense of agency in her, and how much she really wants and needs to prove herself worthy to Vi and to herself. And so, did you ever experience something similar? Event when you only wanted to help and you tried to help, but eventually things just got worse? There is a saying, the road to hell is full good intentions. Vi is wrong in those moments. The thing is, we need to try and understand Vi's personality in order to understand why she is reacting the way she does. Of course, part of it is the emotional turmoil that she's just experienced, but it's not all. Vi is very conscientiousness. That means that she is really value honesty and justice and fairness, and the need in her to make right this injustice that's just happening is part of the drive in her to act as she acts at this moment. I think throughout this series we can see the conscientiousness Vi is acting impulsively, and we're getting excited about it. We're intrigued by it, and we love Vi because of it, because it means that she's giving the bad guys a dish of their own medicine and what they deserve. But in this specific case, her behavior is toward Powder. So Powder is starting to lose it. She cannot think. Her emotions are filling her, and the anxiety and fear are overflowing. She's desperately asking, "Why did you leave me?" It's from her own turmoil of emotion that the self-conscious of Powder, the very basic need, the very root need in her to belong and to be with Vi is coming out. And it's coming out in the words, "Why did you leave me?" One of the most important things to Powder is the knowing that Vi is with her, and the knowing that Vi is believing her and lifting her up, and that Vi thinks that Powder is worthy. Powder needs that Vi will be proud of her. And in a very traumatic sense, the very opposite thing is happening. So Vi is keeping with her impulsive response, and the need to treat the unfairness and the injustice is still high in her. And so she's saying, "Milo was right, you are a jinx." And I think perhaps part of the reason that Vi is acting this way is her own way to honor Milo and to honor his death and to act fairly toward him. So Vi is looking at the blood in her hand, and she starts to regain her own senses. The blood on her hand is very similar to the scene in the first episode after the group fight the young boys, and Vander look at Vi's hand and see blood and hold her hand and telling her this is not the way. And so the visual element helping Vi to regain her senses and to remember what's important to her. And so she's looking at powder and she's turning away. Sometimes the best thing that you can do when you're angry or when the emotions are really high is to not be around the people you love, just in order to not hurt them. And this is what Vi is doing. I think the reason Vi is turning away here and backing up from powder is not because she's abandoning her. It's just because she's understanding that right now she's really emotional and she's really angry and hurt, and it's better for her to not be around powder. And so it's because she loves powder she's turning away at this moment. But for powder, this is traumatic. This is unbearable. Powder is orphaned from very young age, and to her there's never only powder. It's still only powder plus Vi together, and her dependency on Vi is still very strong. And so when she believes and when she thinks Vi is leaving her, her whole world is turning upside down. Powder's scream is actually heartbreaking. And then comes Silco, and we are finally arriving the part in the scene that I think out of place and maybe even a bit out of character. Where is your sister? Silco is asking, and the answer that Powder gives: she left me. She's not my sister anymore. This change is immediately, and it's too steep. It feels wrong. It feels weird. I mean, how come Powder, who's really dependent on Vi and really love Vi, just turning away from her in an instant? And just like that, she doesn't need Vi anymore? She don't want Vi anymore? So how can we explain it? Powder answer. Powder is recognizing a substitute to Vi. Silco is kind of forcing herself on him. She's leaping toward him and she's hugging him. In order to survive, Powder needs a connection. She needs any substitute that she can find to the position of the parent or to the position of the significant other that Vi is or was to her all this. And Powder finds this replacement in Silco. And so I do not think that when Powder is saying she's not my sister anymore, is saying out of grudge or vengeance or maybe even anger. I mean, perhaps there is anger in it because we can hear it in the tone that Powder say it, but I think Powder is saying it to please Silco, to explain to him in some sense, I'm not what you think. I don't have a sister. I'm actually with you. And Silco himself is surprised by it. I mean, when Powder jumped on him, he fell back. And when she hugged him, at the start, he doesn't hug her back. He's still a bit confused. And yet from his own reasons that we can think about them and analyze them at future videos, Silco decides to adopt Powder and to hug her back. But Powder is saying that because she really believes that Vi left her and she has to have any connection. She cannot be alone. I'm still certain that if by some miracle Vi will just turn up and say, hey Powder, I'm here, come with me, Powder immediately will change course again and will go to Vi. But as we know, and maybe to our sadness, Vi was taken by the Enforcer. The development of Vi and Powder throughout this series is incredible. If you want to hear more, join me in my next video. Thank you for watching. Hugs and kisses.